Again, what the fuck?
It says Conloy.
Oops.
The Church of Mavis radio show, Friday nights at 8 p.m., 7 Central, starring Jeffrey Pritchett with his co-hosts Wham and Jay McNicholas, right here on the United Paranormal Radio Network, UPRN 107.7 FM, New Orleans.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
I had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, you know. Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Welcome to UFO Undercover, with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Just getting ready for October, people. Just getting ready. Welcome, Jay. Welcome, Leah. I hope all y'all are having an okay day of life, because life is a big pain and a big turds since Uncle Joe Cracker took over the planet. You know, it even kind of smells like Roswell now in the whole country.
How does Roswell smell?
Like cow manure.
Oh,
so
well, I think most of Arizona smells like that too. At least where my parents lived. Ugh.
You know, so I went to Roswell. God, a long time ago. Leah was just a kitten. This is how long this was ago. And I went to Roswell, and
What
they
year
had
was probably living there?
it was like the Roswell Museum was barely going. They still had the little restaurant on the corner and everything. So I went down there, and I'm walking around. This is even before they had really started UFO in the
Like what
place
year?
up. Oh, let's see. It had to be like 80, I think.
Oh no, I was
It's
there 90 and 95.
somewhere between 80 and 85. Oh, I was in there. Oh, see, I was in there in the 90s a couple times. So I go down there. I'm like, no big deal. Meet some people, but the whole town, they used to run the cattle through this. It just smelled like cow manure. So I went like 7 years later, it still smelled like that. And then I went like 10 years later, and it still smelled like that. Even though the town had changed significantly and it had modernized somewhat, it's still.
Well, it's not so much the town; it's what surrounds it. I mean, where the craft bounced off the ground on the. It wasn't Mac Brazel's ranch. He was just the foreman. The Proctor Ranch, that first debris field. That's all that's out there is cows and sheep and horses outside the city limits.
The little debris field. No, we'll talk about that, Christopher, in a little bit. It's so, and then I went, of course, for the 50th anniversary and the 60th anniversary. I was out there with Fox and friends for the 60th. Had a real good time. Went out there a couple of times after that, and I got friends that live out there. And then, of course, there's the Madman Guy Malone used to be out there. I don't know if he's still out there or not. I'd have to go check and see. But he was he was insane. He had a show on the network for a while too. He was like the religious side of ufology. I met his partner who said that all alien abductions were demonic possession.
Wonderful.
And then what was so funny about this? Several of his people wrote to me and said, including a friend of mine, Tree Sheridan, who I haven't talked to in years now because she's mad at me with Stephanie, but
don't reinforce those fucking stupid ideas.
So the thing of it is it was a strange way that all settled out and worked out. All of that did. And it was from Roswell to what was that? No, you don't do that because I'm already half confused as I am. And you're gonna go add in a bunch of extra stuff. Well, no.
The last thing I needed to be called as a demon again.
Well, the thing of it is he was big. I mean, he had a pretty big following. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now, Joe somebody or nothing, but quite a few of his people came over and talked to me, and like I said, Treese did. And what I did was, well, look, I said, if ET don't want you to remember, you won't remember. I said that's 98% of people anyway don't remember. Yeah. I said, so it's not that big of a deal. I said, if you want it to be demonic possession, I guess it could be demonic possession. I said, but then that's calling the gray aliens Jesus, and I don't know if they're going to go for that or not. But in the end, I said, you can't stop an abduction unless the aliens want to stop. I said, I don't care who you pray to. So I cited a really good example. This young woman at the time was about 28. She had been taken. She was fighting it hard. And the Greys had her on this air. I like to call it an air mattress. It's not really what it is. It's some kind of platform they lay on. But while she was awake and aware, with no pain, by the way, they removed both eyes, took them out like this, turned them around so she could see herself with her own eyes, and said, "Now get your God to fix this." And of course, they didn't. Nobody came to her rescue. And then, of course, the Greys put it back in. I said, but the Greys have removed body parts before. It's not the first time we've heard of that. They always seem to put them back and fix them or whatever they do. But I mean, that's powerful. I mean, how do you get past that when you get put home?
Well,
if you were religious, I'm just saying, if you was extremely religious at this point, you have to be questioning everything.
Yeah, they would definitely bring your faith into question. And I mean, you got to think about the level of technology that they're at. Level 2 or level 3, they're able to manipulate their surroundings, which means they can probably, remove and replace body parts at will at random.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they could. Yes, don't fuck with me, people. I will cut y'all up. I got my lightsaber with me tonight. Don't mess with me, people. I got it. It could be your last time. It was that Christopher. No. It's a real lightsaber. It's
Well,
it,
as real
it,
as it can be.
yeah, it doesn't cut your fingers off, just your toes. It's picky for some reason. I'm not sure why, but getting back to what we were talking about, um, religion is religion, ET is ET. You can mix them all you want, but when it comes right down to it, in this particular case, no one's came to save her. And it's
No.
not even that. It's happened in other cases where they said they were special projects and the government was watching over them. Hey, U.S. Army vet was watching over them, telling them stuff, and they didn't come save them either. Matter of fact, usually when the saving's getting done, it's the Greys or the reptilians, humans removing their contactees from a military abduction.
Yeah, from my labs. Yeah.
Yeah, they frown on their MyLab abductions for some
And
reason.
Army Vet has an interesting question here. I don't know about this one, but there is a Michael Crichton book called Time Machine or Timeline. Sorry, Timeline, where this company develops time travel and they go back to like 1700s France and they get involved in this historical battle. But all the people who have traveled back, if they've traveled, several times, each time they come back, it's like a copy of a copy of a copy. This thing's slightly get off. So in this movie, they show, and in the book too, they show an X-ray of one of the guys who went through the time machine, and like his veins in the X-ray are like this. They're not touching. Instead of like this, they're off. Like like the roads in California after an earthquake.
Yeah.
So is there? I mean, that's an excellent question. I don't know about.
Well, I have heard now. Here's some. I have heard some of these. When we were doing the missing baby stuff, this is back in the late '90s. I mean, the late '80s and mid '90s. We were tracking these missing baby cases down, and a couple of times we would run across a contactee, usually a male, which were very rare back then, by the way. Male contactees prior to like 2005 or 2010 were a fantasy. I mean, really.
Yeah, Billy Meyer, you had that guy in Florida.
There was hardly any of them out there, and none of them, and the ones that were out there didn't want to come forward. And, it always made sense that you don't need as many males. If you're doing breeding experiments, you just need more females for producing eggs. But regardless, in these cases, it just seemed to be that way. It just seemed to be that they, would only take the one male, and then every now and then you'd hear about like a body part being removed, like an arm or a leg or a hand or a finger. Well, in a couple of the cases we got, and I didn't believe him at first. The first guy who ever called me about this was an astronaut. Believe it or not, I'm not going to mention his name. Pretty famous astronaut at that. He said, I heard you look into alien abduction cases where things had maybe not quite what they seemed to be. And back in the day, it's part of what we did. And he said, I want to show you my x-ray. I just recently had one. I broke my wrist. So the doctor said, have you ever broke your arm before? And of course he said no, because he hadn't. Well, his arm had not been broken. The doctor said it looked like someone took some type of laser scalpel and just cut it smooth as could be. And when it reattached, it was off only 0.0001 millimeter, but it was enough to be seen in the x-ray.
It was basically a nanometer. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that anybody even caught it was amazing. So after that, we started asking. Anytime we learn something new, we start asking. And we start asking every contactee we know. We'll start putting pamphlets out, calling people, getting on TV shows or radio shows so we can put the word out. And because that's how you actually literally find out what's going on. So we got about another maybe 50 cases, maybe 55 cases of where there were similar things. One guy had his toe, when they put it back on, they did something to the joint so it stayed stiff. It didn't bend.
Oh yeah.
He didn't realize it until they went running, and the doctor said, "Well, you broke your toe," and he said, "No, I've never broke my toe. I've never even hit my toe." And the doctor said, "Well, obviously you broke your toe because it's broke." And so just little stuff like that. And one guy had on his ear, you could see where they looked like they moved the ear down, like maybe 1/10 of an inch, maybe not even that, maybe 0.2, but you could see it was a line all the way around where the ear was originally attached. I mean, the whole line of the ear was there, but the ear was below it. It was very weird looking. And so we've heard things like that, but those kind of experiences, I don't know what those are about. What are they doing?
Yeah, are they replacing it with the actual, like the guy who had his arm cut off and put back on? Are they using, was it his limb that was put back on, or a biological simile that they put on there for tracking purposes or whatever, or to reprogram the DNA? I don't know.
I don't know what it is. I mean, they can track us through our DNA, so they don't really need once they've sampled the DNA, and they do that pre-birth, so they can track us anytime after that. But Jack, the way we found that out was, so this is 94, 95, right? And we got contactees moving all over the place. This is before MUFON was anything, and ICAR was even founded yet. And we've got people who are contacting us, and it's not an official organization, and people are just moving, just trying to get away. Oh, they moved out here, they moved out there, they moved away from the military base. Some even moved out of the country, but it didn't stop. They always knew where they were, always. So this guy, we're just going to call him Whip because that was his nickname, was on a nuclear submarine. And this had happened to me. He said, well, I'm going to be on a nuclear submarine. We're going to be running dark for the next 3 months, which means no noise, no nothing, completely submerged, probably running around 900 feet.
Yeah.
Everything's muffled.
All silence, yeah.
And he said, not only did they come get me, he said, but two, because it's at such close quarters, he said at least 2 people seen it when it happened. And I freaked out bad. And then they put me back. And he said, I still remember this. He said about 2 days after that, myself and my 2 bunkmates were ordered to see the captain and had to sign a non-disclosure agreement over what just happened.
Wow.
So obviously it's not even the first time that the military knew that it. So, I mean, come on, that is serious technology. They took you out of a freaking submarine submerged under the water. No water got in the submarine. Nothing went on. I mean, that's freaking pretty serious technologies.
So the captain had to have contacted Consublant or Consubpac and gotten the admiral or somebody to say, what do I do about this?
No, from what I understand, it is standing orders.
Wow.
So, and I do remember when we were in the Navy, that the rule was if you saw it, you had to report it, and then you never talked about it again. That was standing orders for anybody, whether it didn't matter where you were in the ship. If you saw something like that, you had to report it, who you were with, what you were doing. They had to report the whole thing, and then that was it. You never heard nothing about it. And I talked to many pilots, and this is before I wasn't even into UFOs. When I was in the Navy, I wasn't really into UFOs. I was just doing my job on the USS Nimitz, and the more I heard, I never met a pilot that didn't at least have 2 or 3 UFO encounters, not one. It was amazing how many people, and that's one of the things that actually piqued me. And then the fact that contactees found me like I had fudge on my head or something. It was crazy. No, I'm serious. It is just people out of the blue just start telling me about their thing. And I'll be in the store working or be wherever working, whatever my job happened to be at the time. Bam, they tell me the whole thing. I'm like, what? I had one lady, she said, I've never even talked about this. She said, it's like you pulled it out of me. I'm like, what? She said, I seen you, and it was just like it was just sucking it out of me. I was like, what the f- are you talking about? And then after that, I heard that so many times after that, I figured, man, I must be not doing something I'm supposed to be doing, which I do take a break from time to time because it's hard. It's a hard line of research because there's a lot of stuff that goes on that doesn't really get into the public, and some of it sounds so crazy it doesn't need to be in the public. What's that, Jimmy Lee? We don't know. Jesus might be native to one of these planets. He might have just been visiting our dumbasses. We don't know. I mean, we weren't there.
Well, I mean, if the Jesus myth is true, all the stories you hear in the Bible and whatnot, if he was able to heal almost any wound by touch, if he was able to walk upon water, he was able to surpass death, then there's some kind of supernatural. No human can do that. So either it's a supernatural being or an alien.
Yeah, that's really the point. Well, no, you know what? I was talking to one of the hosts about this the other day, and we may offer this to a few of the hosts on the network. We might just do a show just on Jesus, not just Jesus,
That'd be
who he
fun.
was, who. Well, Carly, we're going to make this quick because we're not supposed to be talking about this. There is proof that he existed. There's at least 16 or 18 different pieces of evidence that prove that he existed. And I'm not saying that he was the son of God. I'm just saying that the proof that Jesus himself existed.
Yeah, he never said he was the son of God ever.
And then there's the other problem. Everybody who worships Christianity is not worshiping his religion. He wasn't a Christian.
He was Jewish.
Just so y'all know that he wasn't a Christian. He didn't found Christianity. He didn't even ask for Christianity to be founded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they took that upon themselves to do that. So I'm not even 100% sure. I'm not even 50% sure.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Mother?
No.
You should watch it.
Oh my God! Now it's getting scary.
It's got Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
And there's a few scenes that I don't know. Just watch some clips of it. You'll get the idea. It's creepy. They go into the whole like worshiping aspect of eating of the or like something, partaking of the flesh. They're all like they basically took a little baby and ripped it up into pieces and started eating it. And it was like symbolic for it's a really crazy movie. I'll just put it that way.
Yes, it sounds like
there are some people who after their child is born, they save the placenta and at some point have a placenta party where they turn it into like a liver pate and serve it to their friends. Barf, but
well, all that stem cells probably good for you.
Oh yeah, it probably is, but it probably tastes nasty as hell. But the
stem cells
you brought up is, I mean, that's theme all through church. I mean, the Eucharist. Take this and eat of it. It is my body. Take this and drink of it. It is my blood. Symbolic cannibalism. When did Jesus ever talk about that? He didn't. But the subject for another show and another time.
Yes, but we'll actually schedule a separate show. Maybe we'll do it on a Saturday. Maybe we'll do it on a Sunday. But we'll schedule a separate show.
Count me in on that one.
We'll just get in to just Jesus, the man, the person, the legend, the God, whatever. We'll talk about it all, and y'all can make your own decisions of. Huh? That's not for this show, my friend. But anyway, getting back to what we were talking about, these weird things happen to these different people, and then on top of that, they say, I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to go out in the public, and I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to go forward. And all of a sudden, they find their asses being probed by the government. Well, not even the government, because it's not even the government. It's not even right to say it's the government, because it's not the real government. This is
it's a black program, either MI6.
Yeah, well, what you've got. So in the United States, you've probably got ex-generals, ex-admirals, ex-colonels, ex-captains, ex-Boeing people, ex-Lockheed people, ex-senators, ex-congressmen, but big names, people who really have some clout and know what they're doing. And then you'll see that mixed in, because from if, and this is a big if the stories are true, the U.S. and its immediate allies handle almost all of the military abductions inside the Americas and part of Europe. Mm-hmm. And then for some reason, they always describe the ones in Europe like French policemen, gentils. They say they dress like them. I'm like, so I don't know, but I do know that even in Russia, there has been American and French people being seen taking alien abductees. So even the Russian government's got to be aware of it. I can't see how they wouldn't be, and they have to know it's alien, or they would have already declared an act of war. So,
just based on our espionage programs, if they're aware of something, we're aware of it. If we're aware of something, they're aware of it, because we have both. Probably the U.S. and the Russians have I would say the top best spy organizations on the planet. There's very little that we can't find out within days or weeks.
Unless it's that Koresh guy, he's an idiot. But
yeah, he's a mouthpiece. David Koresh is. I think he's the Lee Harvey Oswald of the most recent desensitization program.
You notice that if I don't like them, I never do get their names right. It's a Freudian thing, I think, man. I really think it's a Freudian thing. What's that? Well, no, I mean, I had seen that U.S. Army had talking about his wife's ovaries and stuff, and I've heard that tons of times.
Yeah.
I would imagine the Greys got 500 million eggs by now. They could probably start their own freaking colony.
They might keep.
They might even have more than that. Or,
yeah, they might have the ovaries like in a machine that keeps them alive. And then there's documents of pregnant women. They're doctors. They're gynecologists have X-rays or MRIs or ultrasounds of the actual fetus in the woman, and then she's abducted and comes back a month later for a regular checkup, and the baby is gone, and no evidence that she was even ever pregnant, and it baffles the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, we did several thousand of those cases. So when I was in the middle of leaving MUFON and a couple of years before we started ICAR, it's one of the things we were doing was tracking missing baby cases. And first time, because there was a lot of this, it's spontaneous abortion, or the husband punched her in the stomach, or she was doing drugs or alcohol, or both.
Yeah, but there would still be evidence that there was a child in there.
Exactly.
They're saying that it's like it's a virgin uterus. There's
so in 1990, I met with two doctors outside of New York City, and they were telling me about not only were they pregnant, completely pregnant, hormone changes, body changes. They were pregnant, going on 3 months. Ultrasound was there, everything was there, blood work was there, and then it wasn't. And it's just how they said it. They're like, and it wasn't. I'm like, well, what do you mean it wasn't? Well, they came in to see me. Everything was normal. Hormones would change, uterus, everything was normal. You could never tell that they had carried anything. There was no spontaneous abortion. There was nothing. It was just like she described it as maybe somehow or another, the baby just disintegrated and the body absorbed it. She said, I don't, and she said, I don't understand. No, there's no way for a woman's hormones to adjust that fast. So at 3 months, they were pregnant, well going into the second trimester, and hormones are already changing. And then the next day, no baby, no blood, no nothing. Woman just back to every day feeling like a normal everyday person. That's their description.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, that's getting crazy is what that is. I've known several pregnant women in my life, and it don't work that way. Yeah, Jesse, don't worry. When your wife gets pregnant, you'll understand.
Yeah, and even if they didn't bring the child to term, you have a 3-month fetus in there, the uterus would change its size. It would be larger, and it takes weeks or maybe even months for that swelling to come back down to the normal size of the uterus. So for that to be like, there one day and gone the next, that's like, how do you do that? And we would talk about other times where they abduct people out of the time stream, take them into a pocket time stream where time doesn't matter, do what they do, and then put you back at the same instant they took you. Maybe that's how they're doing it. Is they're, taking the baby.
I think that's more in the last 20 years though that they started doing that. That really was an adjustment to us. That was because the researchers really figured out what missing time really was. And then big mouths like me started telling people, hey, those aren't cover memories, those are trigger memories, and they started asking questions. Not something they wanted to be going on. But they did change the way they do it. They still, it's an always evolving thing. But getting back to the women, it was a strange, and this is what's so strange about this. So I personally interviewed probably 600 altogether between phones, driving, people come to see me at lectures and stuff like that. And then the organization itself did well over 7,000. And then we had 5,000 caseloads that had been donated to us from another group that was doing this.
Hey, Steve.
So it was very strange. It was just, the more you talked, the more it just seemed like gone. But then we started, okay, well, we need to find out what exactly happened. So we started planting memories, not planting memories, but planting questions and contact these heads so we could try to get to the bottom of it. And what it really seemed like, and I should have realized this from Rachel's eyes from the very first time I talked to the mother of the girl of Rachel's eyes. I should have realized it right then and there, because Rachel's eyes was a crazy case to start off with. She was definitely a hybrid of some kind. So eventually they came and took her, because the older she got, the more she changed, the more she started looking not like us. And she had to have a special diet, and the whole story is great if y'all ever get to read it. But what sounds like they were doing is the ones that were normal and were going to look normal and act pretty much normal, they left. The ones that were either changing the way they looked or were developing extreme psychic abilities in the womb, they took. Couldn't let them loose in our society. Yeah, well, they couldn't let a hybrid in there.
The fetus hasn't even been born yet it's transmitting thoughts.
So y'all know the Greys do not look at babies the way we look at babies. They think from the moment of conception they have thought, even though it's just and actually a couple of them will tell you they think it's infinite thought in the very beginning, because they're still connected to whatever created them, the spark that brought them into being. They're still connected to that. So that's something.
Well, I mean,
else.
they're physically connected to the mother, so I mean, they're I don't know. Maybe there's a medical professional out there,
but we do know
it does have some nerve endings in. So is the baby connected to the nervous system too, or is it just the air and circulatory systems?
Well, no, because we do know that mothers sense things in the womb when the baby's in trouble or when the baby's so there's a study done on women when babies were around 4 or 5 months that were picking up like dreams from the child. It was and visions like you were looking from the inside out, from the stomach out. It was very strange. It was very weird. But it was quite a lot of people talked about it. Of course, it was, in the 90s thing. People talked about a lot of weird stuff in the 90s thing, but it did seem like there was some type, and it still does seem like there's some type of connection between them, and not just the mother. I think with the father, because I know with my son, I could be on the couch, or I could be sitting there practicing for the dart tournament, and I'd just get this weird sense, and I'd walk back there. He'd be flipping over, grabbing something. And I really, and I think when you're close to somebody like that, it's even easier to have that sense. But if the Greys are true, pretty much they consider a baby to be empathic from the moment of birth.
From the moment of conception, you mean?
Yeah, from the moment of conception. Since once the spark pops, they consider them, and from that point forward, they believe in developing it. So where we're different is, we're not really that different, because we talk to our babies.
That argument, we haven't solved that argument yet.
No, we haven't, but we still talk to our babies when they're in their mama's stomach. Mama talks to them, daddy talks to them, people talk to them, people rub on them and touch them. So in a way, we are like the Greys, that we are communicating with the child as much as we can.
Well,
the Greys can do it on a different level because they're empathic themselves. They can do it on a different level.
Right, but we also have uterus phones. You've heard of these, right?
Yeah.
They're headphones you just put around your stomach area, and you play whatever. You can microphone your voice through the headphones. You can play classical music, heavy metal, whatever. And there were actually some studies, I think in the 50s or 60s, where they had pregnant mothers listen to certain kinds of music, and then they tracked where the children were 10 years later through school. And the kids who were listening to classical music, whose parents were listening to classical music, tended to be a little bit better grades in school than those who were listening to like rock and roll or other forms of music that weren't so mathematical. Classical music is very mathematical, by the way. So
it's very strange to see how it all develops. But so in their life, and in the Greys, and probably reptilians and humans and too, I don't think they think what we do is right. So that would be an argument for them, though, and it's not something we're going to argue here tonight. But I think they would definitely have different views on the way we handle pre-birth and stuff like that. Well, no, you should read it to your children. Are good when they're in your wife's stomach, rubbing on them. I could talk to my son. He'd move all the way across the stomach just to come listen to him.
It's the same as imprinting with bird types. If you are raising birds and you talk to the eggs until they hatch, and also I think you have to be the first thing the creature sees when it comes out of the egg. But even if they don't see you, they will still have imprinted on your voice.
I'm gonna have to set this one out, okay, guys?
All right,
Okay.
babe.
Have a good night.
Yep,
All right,
thanks,
sweet.
Leah.
Be good. Do. It's it's a tough subject, as you can see. It's a very, very tough subject. Well, she is a contactee, so it's a tough
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah,
It's
so if you're a contactee, this would be very difficult to have because you're going to re-experience your own experience talking about someone else's experience. So
and see that's another thing. That's why sometimes contactee mothers come out of it looking at the world differently, because they're linked with that child before that child experiences this life. That child is experiencing whatever it was, whatever the spark was before this life, and being, of course, in the safety of its mother's womb. So that's what it's experiencing. That's what it's transmitting. I imagine it's a for the most part it's a piece like we don't understand. But you know, but being empathic, mothers can touch it, and a lot of empathic mothers will tell you they develop this bond with their children. But well, some mothers are empathic, some children are empathic, some are
yeah,
both.
I think I'm empathic.
Christopher, empath just means that you feel and sense emotions. You
Yeah,
feel and sense emotions. So you can feel emotions into a room, and which can turn. Matter of fact, you can walk into a room and your whole personality could change
yeah,
because of something you sense from somebody else. But you can also be a transmitter, which means that you can walk into a room and change
and
the whole
change
group
the
of
mood.
personalities. And good, bad, or indifferent. It's one of the reasons anybody who's listened to me for a long time will have heard me preach. You know, how you treat somebody is how they're going to treat somebody else.
Yeah,
Yeah, when I used to work in the public, I always make sure whoever came and seen me that I was nice to. That way, when they left or when they went to work themselves, they would be nice to someone else, and so on and so forth. And it creates a little circle. And if you're empathic, it puts it out there a lot faster. You know, Michael, if I had an answer for everybody who I don't know, they just find me. Now I'm not as in the public as much as I used to be as far as work and stuff goes, because I'm doing construction and radio. So, but when I'm out lecturing or if I'm on air where I'm accessible, people can find me. But they just tell me everything. Oh no, they tell me everything. Things that you should not even tell a stranger. Kinds of dreams you had, why this happened, things on board the craft that you know probably aren't right because you're a married person. Yes, things like that. Lots of stuff like that.
hmm
You'd be surprised. One, they probably just need somebody to talk to, but contactees need to know that they're not crazy.
yeah.
It's better to know that it's better to know that you're out there. If you are crazy, at least you're with a bunch of other crazies.
Well,
So
I
it's
think it must have come to some relief for many. I don't know that I'm an abductee or a contactee myself, but what was it? The '80s, mid '80s. Mike Farrell, one of the actors from MASH, hosted I think it was a 3-hour live ABC UFO uh, show, like a whole marathon, like a whole 3-hour thing. And I think they was one of the first times the world was ever told that millions of people around the world have these same experiences. Now, either millions of people around the world are having the same nightmare slash hallucination slash real experiences, or they're all playing a prank on us. Why would
oh,
half the
boy,
planet
that's
want to play a
crazy.
prank?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and then the other side of the coin is half of these people that have these millions of people that have been abducted, they don't want to talk about it because, like we said with Leah, it's trauma. It's not always a good experience. So I'm sure it's probably pretty close to 50-50.
It is.
50%
It is
of the
rough for
people
people.
liked
I
it,
mean,
and 50% of the people hated the experience, and
what's
still
that?
do.
Well, no, Mike. Well, that is a topic for tonight. Whether we're going to get to it or not will yet to be seen. But
We can,
um,
yeah.
yeah, we'll get to some of it. So it's well, we talked about some other stuff we're going to be doing in the near future. That we get a lot of requests for religious stuff,
hmm
and we get a lot of requests from religious stuff from particular hosts on the network, not necessarily religious hosts. You know what? I was asked that just recently. Somebody asked me that, and come find out on Friday night, and I'll tell you. Yeah, come find out on Friday night. I'll tell you all about it. Yeah, we can talk religion on Friday nights while we're talking. I mean, we are talking about Pope Camilla anyway, so we might as well be having some fun. Christopher, contactees. Okay, not contactees, but abductees walk around in a daze, not knowing much about anything in their life. They know that there's something off. They feel weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes they sense things they shouldn't, or sometimes they it's like my mom. This witch, she knew whoever's at the door on the phone before they even got to the door. She said, "Oh, such and such, selling such and such, getting ready to knock on the door," and then you hear knock, 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 and you open the door. Here's this guy from some book place trying to win a trip to Hawaii. She knew the whole damn routine. I'm like, Mom. So anytime she said, "I know where you're at," I was like, "Oh, she knew where I was." So I never lied to her about it because she knew where I was ahead of time. And then I learned with my son, I always knew where he was. Sometimes he'd tell me, I said, "John, I'm going to give you a second chance, okay, because I know where you are right now. Don't lie to me." And over the years, he's realized that he has the same ability. So these abilities are in families, and they run amongst contactees and abductee families. And if you are empathic or telepathic, you probably are an abductee. But it doesn't mean you're going to know. It means you may be into religion. You may travel to all kind of religions looking for some kind of truth. You may get into dark arts. You may get into light arts. You may get all in kind of paranormal dragons and demons and dungeons and every damn thing fantasy you can think of, because you're looking for the truth, and none of that's the truth. But it does help you, because almost all abductees and even contactees go through those phases before something hits them in the face, and they're like, "Oh shit, this is probably what it is." Well, Michael, we've talked about this on the show before. What's the difference between an abduction and a poltergeist? We've talked about this many times on this show. I mean, because you don't see an alien.
Very, very similar, except the origins are different. One is outer space, and the other is, the other realm. Another form of outer space.
Well, you don't see a demon in a poltergeist, and you don't see an alien in an abduction. You just all of a sudden shit starts flying around the room, things start making noise, stuff goes crazy. I guess it's whoever's hands you end up after the fact, but
then again, we have images and stories of fantastic beasts, if you will. To coin J.K. Rowling, you got unicorns and elves and dwarves, and there's even good dwarves and bad dwarves, and good elves and bad elves. You've got centaurs, minotaurs. You've got a Pegasus. You got a horse that flies. If you take centaur, which is a man's torso on a horse's body, and you take a Pegasus, which is a flying horse, and you mash them together, you get a pegatar. It's a centaur with wings. So that's probably not a real thing. But some of these, some people say that the aliens are some of these creatures, goblins, dwarves, and demons, and whatnot.
Reese, I'm not touching the pegatar now. Shock attack.
100% fictional. It was just as an example.
No. They went no, Jay. They went a whole different way with it than you went. Yeah. You ain't even going there. A bunch of perverts.
Okay, I see.
You people, sometimes y'all need to get your head out of the gutter. Yeah. What's that, Jackie? So, when people get taken, they experience it. They put back, they wipe their memory. Now, if by some chance you were on board the ship or wherever they took you, well, it's not always on a ship, but wherever they took you, you showed some kind of interest, or while you were awake, you weren't like, ah, and freaking your brains out, or you seen somebody next to you screaming and freaking out, and you reached over to help them, then they may bring you into the abductee, into the contactee phase, where you're allowed to intermingle with people and be part of stuff that goes on board the ships. Keepers are different. They work a little bit more closely with them, but it's all pretty much the same thing. But they start allowing you, so that's when the trigger memories come in. So when they put you down, you'll see a UFO. You're like, wow, look at that UFO. Or you'll see some kind of weird, strange group of animals. This shit just way out of the ordinary. People always thought those were cover memories, but they're not. They're trigger memories. Those are left behind so that you will think about what happened just now. And the more you think about it, the more you'll find that there's other strange things going on. And they'll usually leave other clues besides that. So, because they want you to remember, they want you to become part of it. Because on board or whenever they had you, you showed some kind of, yeah, I'd like to be involved in this. I imagine I said, oh shit, really? I can do this? Wait, what kind of job? Oh, wait, what? Give me all the jobs. I can see me run around now. Oh man, no, I'd love it.
I like the example you used on earlier shows where I think it was a woman who was pregnant. The trigger memory was every day she went to this specific shop at this specific time, got a specific item, and ate it either there or on the way home, whatever it was, that same routine, that was the memory. And then after she had birth, I gave had the baby, that habit stopped. Yet that memory came back, and she's like, I haven't been there in years.
Yeah, what Jay's talking about, this woman stopped every morning, got a full-blown chili, cheese, and onion, like monster foot-long hot every morning.
Jeez.
For like 9 months. Yeah. Her doctor said, "You just surprised the shit didn't kill her." And then the baby was like 2 years old or 3 years old, and she was driving home from work, and she looked at the clock and she said something's off at the time. And she said, oh, damn, but that's right. I forgot I stopped and got that chili dog. And then she got home and she realized I ain't ate one of them damn chili dogs in 3 years. What the? So she called me and she asked me about it. And I said, more than likely. I said, let me ask you a couple other questions. Did some other strange stuff happen? She said, we went through to drive. And she's like, oh, shit. I said, you were taken and put back. I said, the hot dog is what they call it. They use these kind of memories because most of the time, like Jay, let's say you got a habit, you come home from work every day, you stop, you get cigarettes, or you get a beer or whatever, Coke, whatever it is, you just something you do religiously.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to use that memory because you're never going to challenge that memory. You're going to be like, oh, well, that's all I was doing.
Well, it doesn't have to be religiously. It can just be a regular restaurant. You
it just can be just it doesn't have to be.
But
what's that Ferrari? It's no, they use these memories because in the old days they would replace memories and cover memories and do all sorts of shit. But with this, they just put whatever happened to you in between, and your memory just covers it itself because you thought that's what you were doing.
Instead of you being on a spaceship out by the planet Uranus, you've been to Taco Bell and back.
Well, it's like me. I drive an hour and a half back and forth every day to work. So when I'm driving, I'm listening to this or listening to that. I'm not going to challenge it if that's what the memory is. I'm just going to say, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It got a little darker earlier. I was running a little late and didn't realize it. It's and really missing time is a thing of the past. The only way you catch them now is if you gain a little time, some kind of weirdness with time, but not so much missing time. There is still some a little, but for the most part, they made it much harder to catch them now. And that's all because the researchers were doing a good job. And then the aliens said, well, guess what? We're smarter than you are.
We're getting wise, but at the same time, time doesn't matter for them. We've talked about, different levels of a species. They are probably able to manipulate time in such a way that, they can just snap their finger. Everything stops in either the whole universe or just in a certain area. They can walk in, grab somebody. Nobody can see anything because you're frozen. 3 days later, come back, put you back, and snap their fingers, and everything goes back to normal again. The implications of things that they can manipulate we can't even imagine some of the things that they could probably do. Their technology is probably to the point where a Star Trek phaser to them is like a slingshot to us.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm serious. That's how far advanced from Star Trek these people are.
Well, Christopher, I'm sorry, Christine. Even if the Greys were nearby, near our evolution, they're still way ahead of us.
Well,
when you look at their ships and you look at their design, they're using organic ships, whereas the reptilians and humans are still using flip and touch technology. And what I mean by that is there's still buttons to push and dials to turn and things to flip. Whereas, no, there's no wires now. No. As far as I can tell, or I've heard on any of the ships,
cables, if anything,
but they're not connected to anything. So The there's what is it? There's a movie, an old movie, Forbidden Planet.
Oh yeah,
So
Leslie
so
Nielsen before he was a
yes,
comedian.
before he was a comedian. So all their machines there were connected, but not through wiring, and that's how they are on board the reptilian and human ships.
Well,
There's
there's
no there's
the
now. Okay.
there's the footage at the end of that Alien Fact or Fiction autopsy, the one that's hosted by Jonathan Frakes, who played Will Riker. At the end of it, they show the footage that Ray Santilli got a hold of, and there's the autopsy footage, and then after that, there's some debris footage, I guess you can call it, and they show these consoles with 6 fingers, and then there's like little dots inside the finger indentations, and then there's like not a raised panel, but an undulating U, several U's right above where the hands are that have also several dots in it, and it's kind of like a routed out trowel. But they don't have any wires coming to them or from them. They were just like, they took them off the floor or took them off the consoles. But yet they say they also found fiber optic cable and networking on some of these ships. So that's the fiber optic is probably the reptilians and the insectoids and the Anunnaki and those types.
Well, I would bet it's more like this. They're big ships. I bet you there's no real wiring involved anywhere. But I would bet you on the like the sports models or the cargo ships or the escape pods or the ships that the scouts that run in between. I would bet you those are still wired together. They're still I don't know about the Greys because the Greys grow their ships, but everybody else is
power conduits of some type for these devices to work. I mean, at least as far as
so in the Grey ship, we know the power is carried through the blue plasma and through the skin itself. So we actually have a good understanding how the Grey ship works. But well, let me rephrase that. We understand how stuff gets from point A to point B. How it actually works, no, we don't understand that. Other than we know that the Greys plug into it and they think about it, and whatever they think about happens. Hey, Dolly, how you doing, sweetie? But they, I mean, yeah, you know, and that's what's so nice about a Grey ship, though. So if you're a very telepathic human, and I'm not talking about no level 5 or some shit. I'm talking about serious telepathic human. You with like maybe one other human could probably fly a Grey ship without much of a problem.
You're talking Professor X level of.
Well, I mean, if you had to go 1 to 10, I'd say like a 7, but or higher.
That's who Charles Xavier is, like a level 6. He's like the second most powerful mutant, and level 6 is where he is. The only one more powerful than him are both Magneto and Jean Grey.
Well, yeah, Jean Grey's a beast. It's
she's like level 7 or 8, and when she's the Phoenix, boom, there's an instant 10.
So I mean, it's interesting that there's no real technologies like that on board the big ones, and the small ones I can understand. It may just be easier to run the fiber, or it might have been a different model at the time. You know, when we talk about Roswell. So when we talk about Roswell, you always have to talk about Corona, and nobody ever wants to talk about the crash in Corona. I always want to talk about the one in Roswell. Roswell was obviously an escape pod, or I'm pretty sure it was just an escape pod. Maybe it was a shuttle, but whatever it was wasn't very big. There wasn't that much debris, and it was found thrown all over the place, and it broke apart. Any ship designed to go through interstellar space is not going to break apart on impact. It may make a crater, or it may dig itself into the ground, but it is not going to break apart. Anything that can take a micrometeor at faster than light speed is not going to break apart. We could hit it with a nuke, it wouldn't split it. It would just be like,
we don't know how they're deflecting those micrometeors. They could be, you know.
I would imagine it's a threefold. Well, I would imagine it's a threefold. I would imagine
there's a multi-layered hull for one. Number 2 would be an electronic device, and then number 3 would be some sort of electromagnetic wave. Like the original Enterprise model had it had an antenna in front, and that was supposed to send out
deflector shield,
like a shock wave, which pushed lighter debris and dust out of the way.
So these is probably something a little different, but there's definitely something. So I would imagine if you have a metal that you can make one piece, just a one piece metal, it's going to be so much stronger than anything else, because layered metals are really usually stronger than one chunk of metal is. Usually,
that's how the ships are described as being made out of one billet.
But these ships look like they're like made just out of a mold of some sort. The Grey ships we know are grown, but I mean the other ones look like they're just made out of some kind of mold where once they're made, there is nothing that can melt them. You'd have to park them in the sun for a couple of years. It doesn't seem like they can lasers or phasers or whatever really affects the thing itself. It just seems like it's just, and then we do have some places. So let's revert for a minute. So we're going to go to our witness that he's sketchy. You know, it depends what you want to believe in. Believe him about him, Mr. Ice Cream Man himself, 3 flavored strawberry ice cream, who coined the term sports model. Hell no,
Would that be Bob Lazar?
That would be Bob Lazar. So Bob, when Bob talks about the sports model, that's what he calls it. It was in peace. It was intact.
Yeah.
It wasn't in pieces. Matter of fact, they couldn't even get in the son of it. No, they couldn't even get in the bitch. They were using plasma torches. I'm sorry, and they could not get into this thing.
Well, the debris that was found in or near Roswell, Corona, if you will, is described as being, they tried to hit it with a sledgehammer, it wouldn't dent. They tried to hit it with a drill, it wouldn't. They couldn't cut it. They couldn't hit it with metal shears. They couldn't hit it with a torch. The lighters wouldn't leave a mark. You take any metal that we have here in our world, you're not going to melt it with a Bic lighter, but if you take a Bic lighter to it, it's going to leave a mark.
Yeah,
it'll turn black. I mean, it's not going to hurt the metal, and it'll turn it. It wipes it right off. You can wipe it right off, but they could leave no marks on any of the debris that was found in and or near Roswell in 1947.
Frank, what are you talking about, pilots? Okay, there are people who say they can fly them. I've interviewed several people over the years that say they can fly the craft, but I have to warn you ahead of time. There are different craft for different aliens, and there are different designs with different mechanisms. So when you hear someone talk about it, they're talking about a particular type of craft they've learned to fly. They've learned a particular style of craft. The longer you've been being taken, and the longer you're aware of what's going on, and the longer you can keep your memories, the more likely you're going to get to fly more than one thing, if that's what they want you to do. But let's be honest about this. Not all humans are going to get a chance to do that. They're for different things. People who work in the projects, the keepers we like to talk about, work in projects with the gray. So this one may be over here. They may be on, and remember, they can pull you out of time. So they want to keep you on board a mothership for 6 or 9 months or 10 months for you to get a feel of something, learn something. They can. No time's passed here. They just put you back a couple of minutes before they drop you off. Now, there are rumors, and we will use the word rumors, that there are replicas that can be used if for some reason you're going to be going longer than that, where you may age or get scars or get damage. I don't know. I've heard many, many things, but we do know about the cylinders where they keep the different host bodies for the humans that they're taking after they die.
There is one vague story, and I don't remember where I heard, read, or saw it, but late 70s or early 80s, where a gentleman who was an abductee experiencer was brought back. I don't know. Somehow he comes back, but on the way back, he encounters his replicant that looks exactly. It's actually wearing the same clothes he is as he passes, and he can't. He's so stunned. I think those are his exact words: stunned or shocked. And when he stops and follows himself as the replicant walks away from near his house or coming out of his house. I don't remember the exact true story of it, but the guy was so freaked out he was scared into inaction, I guess, and he just watched the guy walk away. And
see, sometimes it could be a replica, sometimes it could be the time thing. If you're out of phase and you got there before you left,
you could be seeing your own self, I guess. Yeah,
it's kind of creepy, weird.
Yeah, I would probably pass out if I saw myself in the clothes I'm still wearing and be like, I'd probably lose it.
I know.
Stunned into inaction.
Well, Denise, the first time we learned about the tubes on board the ships that were holding humans that looked like the contactees that were being taken was in the 70s. And since then, it's been really looked at in a way that we started understanding things. So we know it took us a decade to figure out why UFOs were going to graveyards, mortuaries, and hospitals and just hanging around. No one actually knew what the hell they were doing. Now we know. So those host bodies are grown for those. When they die, they get uploaded into them, but they don't always immediately get uploaded. Sometimes they get put into one of the holodecks, or get put into
Get a flash
one
drive or something going.
yeah, basically into like a flash drive, and they're held. But eventually, they end up in those host bodies, which are much different than our bodies, or they don't really look all that much different. Some are a little wider, some are a little taller. Brain power is about 8 times what ours is. And that's still nowhere near around the grades, but way more powerful than we were. So they gift us. Plus, I imagine the lifespan is as long as you don't get killed, you probably won't die. And then there will be the ability to have yourself uploaded into a new body, into a new consciousness, with your consciousness. So once you're off world, all of that becomes available. It's just not available here. What do you mean here? It depends on well, when we talk about the Holocaust dream, because 1/3 of contactees have the Holocaust dream, so that's a big number. And to know that makes me wonder, and to know that they're building these host bodies for different types of gravity, suggesting it's not going to be Earth, it makes me wonder how many humans will actually get left here. I know why they're going to get left here, because they're going to change. Some of the stuff they'll probably have to do to collect some of them people from the military and other places, other labs and places like that, will probably not be nice. But well, because the way they explain when you go off world to these new colonies, they're more utopia than they are like it is here. There's no real wars going on. There's no military. There's not even police walking around. There's no armed anything. I mean, they're basically utopia. You're just walking around doing your thing, whatever you think you can do. Kind of reminds me of that planet on Star Trek where the kids created with their minds and they didn't need tools or anything. Or if they did have tools, the mind worked them. It's all lovely, kind of lovely stuff like that. But the problem is there's so many planets. You know, you can say that planet did this planet did that. You can always talk about the planet where the cleanup crews are, which from what I understand is disgusting, nasty, filthy, dirty, let me eat you kind of planet if I can, where everything's processed, all the non-living tissues that we're living are processed, things like that. There's lots of stuff. I mean, it's a galactic, it's huge. And our galaxy keeps getting bigger. Just the other day, so they're going to, by the way, I meant to tell you this the other day, Jay, they're going to large in our galaxy yet again to over 200,000 light years.
Wow.
They're like something, not just ours.
That's not that big. I mean, when I remember in high school, they said the median span of the width of our galaxy was 60,000 light years to 170,000 light years. Now it's a little over 200,000 light years.
Yeah, but in the old days, they used to just stick us at 60,000. They finally got us up to 100,000.
Yeah.
But now, then they got us up to 160. So they're growing us out. But it's not ours so much. It's the old ones and the ones that first started out. They are much more massive than they realize.
Yeah, they're saying there's the ones they just found on the James Webb and it's a pretty dense field of galaxies, tightly packed galaxies. They're saying the smallest one is like 10 times the size of ours.
Yeah, that's true, Dolly. That's another thing. That's why I said utopian. You're not going to lie to anybody. Everybody's very telepathic. Everybody's you just walking past somebody. Nice ass. Well, guess what? They're going to know you just thought that because they're going to look right back and say, "Oh, really? Thank you."
Well,
or,
they probably also evolved beyond that kind of physical contact.
It's going to get Leah in trouble for sure. She'll be looking at people. It's well for us, for humans. Well, for humans, it's going to take time to get used to that kind of stuff. That people get in your head, say hi. Good morning is not going to be hello, good morning. It's going to be in your head, good morning. Probably in a much nicer way too, because the thought will be going across instead of the words. What's that, Jimmy? Yeah, well, you can't hit. Okay, let's just be blunt about this. It's probably one of the reasons they're going to break the planet's population up. Is because, and it's probably what reason contactees don't really broach more than about 1.5 billion, is because it's going to take a while. You're going to have a lot of, they're coming from here, and the way we are here, and it's going to take a little time to adjust. It's just going to take time. Humans are rude by nature, even the nice ones. So it's going to take a little time. Well, you'll get used to it eventually, But when somebody asks you a question, you go to him and haw, and they're going to know you're lying right off the bat. Even if you've got good ability to block it, they're still going to know because you blocked it. They know you're lying. Or you tried to block it anyway. I don't know. Some of them may be more powerful than others. What's that, Christy? So what time is it? We got plenty of time. So we talk about this all the time because you always hear these different ufologists out there talking about, oh, Ronald Reagan lived on Mars. Barack Obama lived on Mars. If Barack Obama lived on Mars, that means P. Diddy did too. So, oh shit. That might have been where them wild parties were being had out on Mars.
Yeah. That could be. Could be that.
That's why Elon's going to Mars to get away from all these weird.
What happens on Mars stays on Mars.
That's right. But there were a lot of these cases where such and such said there was a base on Mars. Now, in 1979 is when the TR-3B started flying. They said in 79 and the beginning of 80 that the U.S.
When did the triangular UFO reports? Lots of them start happening in Belgium. 1980, 1981,
somewhere up in that area.
No, they started in 1980. Is what I'm saying. I mean, right after that came out now
there are some of these you got to be careful with. So
yeah.
So the F-16 pilots for NATO described one of the ones over at Belgium City bigger than the city. Okay, that was not ours. That was probably something watching ours. It was bigger than the city. And then there's the one we all got arrested watching, and there's an Iowa off Tampa. This thing just came. It was at least 2 miles by 2 miles. Oh yeah, it was at least a half a mile to a mile thick and 2 miles by 2 miles wide. I mean, the thing was huge, and it was just a big black triangle. It was just floating along. Kind of looked like a blimp until you realize that you wasn't. And so there's a few of those
to them that metal craft usually do not.
so I mean, there's a few of them floating around, but for the smaller ones, the majority of the smaller ones are ours. Some of them are Aurora type craft, but there are several TR-3Bs flying around, and there's upgraded versions of the TR-3B. I know for a fact because I had a senator come to me a long, long time ago about this. He had one fly out of his car in New Mexico, and he couldn't find out what it was. And he was nosing around. Somebody on the internet told him come see me, and he did. And it took me a while to believe he was who he said he was. And then anyway, when the whole thing was over and done with, and I proved to him what it was, and he got, because he was one of the appropriation committee chairman, and so he said, I'm cutting everybody's money off until I find out the truth. And then he did. And then he sent me a vanilla envelope about yay thick with the entire layout of the TR-3B. No, I couldn't get in trouble for it because I got really, really, really high security, plenty high enough to see that. Yes. So that's one advantage to being in this field and having that clearance is at least I get to see stuff. Some of it I can't share with y'all, and I usually won't even talk about it if I can't share it. But in this case, it was lots of other witnesses to what was going on there.
Even some of the most famous and now deceased whistleblowers, Robert Dean, several others, they've espoused that there's things that they know, but they saw with their clearances, but they refused to share.
Yeah.
They shared a lot, but certain things they couldn't because they would be, in jeopardy of being, summarily executed.
I got a belly these days, but bread and water for life is not me. No, people, they will lock you away for that kind of stuff.
If they don't outright kill you.
Yeah, and if it's something really bad. Well, that's a lot of times how you know if someone's telling the truth or not telling the truth. If the government doesn't respond a lot of times, then it's either something that's not true or something that's not going to phase what they're doing. Because you can have contactees and abductees out there and keepers out there talking about what goes on, but in such a way that it's not going to phase the government. But you start talking about technologies on board the crafts and how they operate and what can be done with them, then you could find yourself in the middle of a military abduction and maybe not even get out of the damn thing before they can come save your ass, meaning the grays or the reptilians or the humans.
So how do I know that you aren't somebody that was brought forth to keep someone like me from getting to the right people that I don't know could either lock
Because
them
I
up
am the right people, doofus. That's why.
or the wrong people, I guess.
Contactees find me, they just find me. And it's just a weird thing. I think with the Greys especially, and even the reptilians, I don't know if the humans do, but I know the other two do. It's like it's programmed into the contactee to seek out someone who's already out there, someone who knows what's going well, someone who has an idea what's going on. I hate to use knows what's going on because we only know so much. Even the ones who really know a lot probably don't know more than about 30%, which is a lot. Don't get me wrong, but there's still so much more we don't know, and it's mainly because our little peon human brains are not quite ready for that yet.
Well, I've said it many times.
Oh, Dolly's an alien. No, she's not a contact. She's an alien. Yeah, she's an alien. Don't let her fool y'all people. Dolly's an alien. Yes.
Who?
Dolly. Dolly's an alien.
She's in the chat room.
And she's busy converting Preston into an alien. I gotta watch out for Preston, man. I'm coming to save you, Preston. I'm coming.
Hybrid, yeah.
No, Pete. No, I'm teasing. No, Dolly's a friend. She's actually a host of show with her husband on the network. I just seen them not too long ago in California. No, she's an experiencer. No, that's why I'm giving her trouble because she's an experiencer. Well, no, people come through her experiences, but you got to remember, you can only be so serious. It's like when you're in that haunted place and the ghost is scaring the bejesus out of you and you just got to crack a joke because you're so scared you don't have a choice. It's kind of like that. It's like whispering in the dark. Because some things are freaking scary, man. You mean scared me? What scared me? I don't really know. Nothing really right now, but you never know when something's going to. I'm not a real scary kind of people. But there's been a couple of times I've been like, what the... I can't use that language on this show, but no. What do you mean? I go walking through the swamp with rattlesnakes and moccasins and alligators and black widows and brown recluse. No, I'm not really scared that much. It's not something. No. Now, when I'm out in the swamp and a big silver thing stops over my head and goes, "Hey, Joe, how you been?" Then I start getting a little worried. Well, we went hunting out in swamp. We were actually on the NASA Stennis facility. We were actually on the base. And we were sitting there just chilling. And Jason, rest in peace, my friend's gone now, goes, "Joe, what the hell is that?" And you see what looks to be a saucer just kind of wobbling along like this. Not really wobbling, but just kind of wiggling. Headed right into the NASA base. And right behind it, you see what appears to be a TR-3B. I'm like, what the bleep is this? And then I would imagine what we saw was either a prototype of the very first F-22 ever to fly anywhere around here, because this is a long time ago. Well, no, I guess they were flying back then, but still 20 years ago. And we got a couple of pictures. So, well, this was right after Katrina, actually. So what is it? Yeah, 19 years ago. So a friend of mine from Canada was down with Canuck. He was down. Jason was in from Texas. They were all helping us. We were working after the hurricane. We were all working our asses off. And he said, "Is that what a thing?" And then there's a jet. So you see him three in a line. I just cruising along, not making any real noise, just putting along. You're like, what the hell? So then we get in the car. So, well, we're going to leave and go get something to eat, right? Because it's kind of weird. So we leave, get in the car, and it's 11 miles, 12 miles out to get out the swamp. So we drive along, we get out the swamp. So we're going to eat at this particular exit. Somehow or another, we passed the exit up 4 times. Yeah, that's an impossibility is what that was. So between where we were and where we were going, which is about 20 minutes away, we lost 6 hours. 6 hours. And nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to be hypnotized. Everybody was angry and aggravated. But I still wanted my waffle, though. I was still hungry. I think I was even more hungry, actually. No, I'm being serious. People, it was really, really creepy. It was really, really weird. And later on, we did some regression work, but it was I don't know what happened. Obviously, something got us. Something said, "Hey, let's go, guys. What are y'all doing out here?" Oh no, they got us before we left the swamp. That was a memory. It was a swamp. They got us before we left the swamp. Like I said, it's such an easy thing to do, and it's easy pickup in the swamp because the road is straight from end to end. So if you're coming in, swooping in, you can use the road as a guide for any type of beam you may be using. We've seen all kinds of stuff out there. I've seen. I watched a doe drop a fawn one night about 4 o'clock in the morning. I watched 80 hogs with about 200 piglets come walking across the highway in front of us. It's just alligators out there burping and gargling, growling, doing breeding season. They're just noisy as hell.
Yeah, they stink too.
Yeah, they do. Plus, you'll hear a big cat every once in a while, which we're not supposed to have down here anymore. But obviously, somebody's wrong because you can hear them out there screeching. Well, big cats don't sound like it's not like the only time you'll hear vicious growls when they're about to bite your head off. Other than that, that's not really the kind of sounds they make. And then we've watched Native Americans dancing in the moonlight in the dark. No, there was nobody actually there. It was some kind of ghosty thing. I was at the end of a trail that led to an Indian village that used to be there. No, there was a bunch of them just out there dancing around. It was very exhilarating and very creepy at the same time. We had people talking out the woods to us back there, and it's also the first time we ever ran across the black thing. The black thing is infamous, it's famous, and it is scary like you wouldn't. But I can't, even today, which is 25 years later, 30 years later, I still can't put the amount of fear into perspective. Like I said, I'm not really scared of anything. And this was so we're sitting in an all black stanza, sitting at the way in the back of Honey Island Swamp, way back there where we used to go watching UFOs and listening to weird things. So we're sitting way back there and just talking. Had the moon roof open, just sitting there. Had the car idling because I had the AC on. We're just sitting there, right? So I looked behind the car and nothing. For some reason, I went to go get something at the back seat, and I stretched out and I put my foot on the brake, so the taillights lit up by accident. When I did, it looked like the black moved. Like the whole black behind me just moved. I was like, so I reached over and I was pushing the lady. I'm like, so I let off the brake and I did it again, and it definitely moved. It only moved about that much, but it definitely moved. So I said, okay. I turned on the lights so the lights would stay on. I popped that car in the first and just punched it. Whatever was behind me got covered in rocks. I'm sure it didn't like it, but I just took off. So I'm driving down this gravel road, 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, no moon, just zinging along. And every time I'd step on the brake a little bit because it got brighter, you'd see this thing behind the car. So it never seemed to catch me, even though I had some of those turns I had to slow down significantly because, I mean, they were serious turns. So I'd go from like 110, 120 to like 60. And I would drive, so I'm sliding around these turns in the gravel and I'm punching as I'm coming out and I'm cruising. So the road's coming up, the main road, the Blacktop Road, which is still another 11 miles out the swamp. Well, it does this number like this. It's raised. So I said, okay, I've done this when I was a teenager. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Pop the car in neutral, hit it sideways, grab the emergency brake, and just slid and made the car slide all the way up. So the car slid up like this, and it went in the air and then just dropped on the highway. And what it did, I reached out the car with the gun, pop, 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 pop. Each light made it stop. Obviously, the bullets didn't mean at all. So I punched it, and we're now on a flat blacktop road with a couple of bridges. So this car is running. It's pegged past 120. I don't even know how fast this damn stanza went. So it's cruising, and I know we're about 2 miles from the cattle guard, and I know I got to slow down to 10 or 15 miles an hour across this cattle guard. I know it. It's a bad cattle guard, so I know it. So I'm cruising. I'm trying to get some distance, and no matter how fast I went, the distance never seemed to change. At whatever speed I was going, it never seemed to change. I get to the cattle guard. I put on the brakes. I go over it. And it stopped at the cattle guard. It did not cross the cattle guard because I stopped on the other side of it. And it just sat there, and I just sat there. And several times it looked like it took a shape of a being or a person. But the fear it gave, it's like whatever it was got inside of you. It's like it crawled inside of you and crawled inside of your psyche, and it was just sitting on the fear panic button is what it felt like it was doing. I mean, it was just overwhelming amount of fear. And even sitting there, I was to a point where I was just about to panic. And I've never panicked about any fucking thing. So I'm kind of like, so I put the car in drive and just started letting it roll off. Hey, because the interstate's right there now. And it never moved. It never crossed that cattle guard. Man, I don't know what it was. Still to this day, don't know what it is. But when I came home that night, I had it. The next day, this show was on. And I got on and I talked about it. And within about 2 months, I had about 10 different people write to me from different places around the country. The only thing we had in common is that it was near some type of facility where it happened. The two in Arizona. Yeah.
Military facility.
So, well, NASA's not a U.S. military facility, is it?
It's not.
A civilian one, but whatever it was. So
it's a civilian one, but what were most of their pilots?
So that's true. I think all of them.
Army or Air Force, yeah. At least the first batch.
Everybody wanted to make an alien. I don't think it was alien. I think it was something new the government was testing out. Whatever it was wickedly bad. Was it a drug induced? I don't know. People, for anybody asked, was it psychic induced? It may have been psychic induced because we were just chilling back there, relaxed, until it would have been easy to get into our head. Of course, if it was invisible, it could have been something aerosol. I don't know. And it was one of my favorite places to go, and I didn't go back for 3 years after that. I was like, I ain't going back there again. Screw that. And then finally I made myself go back there, and I never experienced it again. But like I said, other people in other facilities had experienced it. And it's always the same thing. They all will tell you the same thing. The fear is unreal. When you're experiencing it, it is unreal. It's not real, but you can't get past it. Every time you try, it's like somebody turns the fear knob up. So you're fearing, and it's just climbing the whole time. And anytime you look or face this thing, it just like notches up double. It was insane. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I mean, it was just horrible. Even though nothing happened to us, there was no harm, no damage to the car, no damage to us. I mean, I did shoot 4 rounds out of it. Obviously, it didn't bother it. Let's say, Chris, no, I shot 4 legit. No, I'm a good shot, buddy. It definitely hit it. And besides, it was so big, it would have hit it no matter what. It was like twice the size of my car 3 times. So it kind of looked like a Spectre when it was coming down the road, because it was like shifting and changing and shifting. And then every now and then it would take a form. And then when it got really close to the car, it would take almost like a, I don't want to call it human, but some type of form, like a biped. Yeah. It was creepy, guys.
It'd be interesting to see, if the encounter were to happen again, what would happen with tracer rounds?
That would be interesting. I wish I had some, because
the path of it, once you shoot it, you can see where the bullet went.
Yeah. So because the lights did affect it, you could tell when the brights, when as long as it was on running lights, it didn't bother. But when I stepped on and the tail lights came on bright, it bothered when those, and you could tell it was still moving. The shot itself didn't bother, but the flash of light did. Because there's no doubt that the bullet didn't go right through it. It's just the light stopped it.
The enemy of shadow is light, of course.
And I was just pulling just apart to give it that half a second. So it was like pop, and the light flashed, and it stopped, and then pop, because it started moving again, and flashed, it stopped, and it did that 4 times. And then it came all the way up to the road and stopped. Like within, I could probably reach out the car and touched it. And it sat there until I took off, and then it gave pursuit again. It was very weird. It was definitely, I definitely got the sense that something or someone wanted us to out of there.
Yeah, it's like Dolly exactly said that. Whatever it was meant to scare you off.
Yeah, it was definitely not. It was definitely not for. What was that, Michael? No, I've been. Look, man, we've snuck on military bases and Oh, you mean Linda? Linda's crazier than I am. No, she's crazy. Oh no. We in Eglin Air Force Base one day, I said, we're actually in Gulf Breeze, Florida is where we are. We're not even in UFO hunt, we're on vacation. So this weird shit happened to us. So she just takes off around the fence and down the beach. Now, she hates water. especially water that's over her chest. And this is the Gulf of Mexico where there's sharks and dolphins and shit. She walks out to the end of the fence and then walks around the fence, swims around the fence, and then walks back up to the beach. So now she's actually on the base. Well, I'm like, Jesus, bleaking Christ, now I got to go get her. So I go get over there, go get her. And she's like, no, there's this building, because we had a really good on the alienigma.com site. There's a really good picture of a saucer we got that was actually landing out there earlier. And so we get to this building, and this is all I remember. And we had a lot of equipment and a lot of stuff. And I remember she pulled the door over, and we looked down, and this freaking staircase just went like this. You couldn't see the bottom of it, just straight down. It was just on an angle going straight down. It looked like it went down a mile or more. And I'm sure there was exits here and there and other stuff on it, but it was crazy looking. Yeah, well, we recovered all kind of memories from that and all kind of other weirdnesses from that. But right down the street from there is where we lost 11 days. So, Jimmy, every time I write about it, I get like halfway through it and then I get aggravated. Well, sometimes when I'm out in LA, I can channel Elron. It makes it easier. Yeah. Did I start? Yes, I'm live right now. Somebody just asked me if I started my broadcast. I was just laughing. What's that, Marky? Who? Dr. Steve? I don't pay much attention to Dr. Greer. We're in different circles. He does different kind of research than I do. He investigates spiritual aliens, and I investigate aliens. Yes. Spiritual, not spiritual, in between. I'm investigating their asses. You know, Jay asked me this the other day, and I do think there's a lot more evidence now to suggest something could be living under the surface because of we found some light sources down there. We found liquid water. We found stored water. Oh, there's an ocean down there larger than all the water on the planet, and it's stored. It's almost like much like Bitterman. It's almost the way oil's stored, but it's water. What's that, Christopher? Oh yeah, they'll be coming on in about 15 minutes. Oh, Preston's her guest tonight. Is she Michelle's guest tonight? I was just asking Dolly. What was that, Christopher? You mean do they play matchmaker? They most certainly do. When I first got in this field, I thought that was bullshit. Just like some other things, certain types of things we're dealing with. We'll just say sexual relationships. I thought were bullshit, but some of that actually has turned out not to be. No, because they don't necessarily have to play matchmaker a lot of times. A lot of times, if you're on board the big ships, where you're learning things out, you know, the people keepers and contactees, and even some of the abductees get to go there, and they spend a lot of time there. Well, contactees have two different lives. They have life here and life there, and they're two entirely different types of life. Well, they allow you to remember some of it to help you get past this life. Yes. They allow you to remember some of the contact life to help you to get past this life, meaning that this way, well, life here is hard. Life there is not. It's a big difference. They have a different set of moral values than we do. Actually, in all fairness, our moral values not all that different. They just implement and we don't. That would be the best way of saying it. No, to be honest, there's a lot we share with all three species. The reptilians are the most, but all three species we share a lot with. Well, we share kindred with all reptilians. So one thing
we said this, I've said this many times on the show. You know, it says it in the Bible. You know, God says, "Let us make man in our own image, after our own likeness," and we've described that as the meaning we look like them and we have the same, you know, emotions and we act like them. And aside from the technology, you take away the technology, they're just simple flesh and blood creatures like you and me, just, you know, billions of years old.
Yes, they're. Oh, Jimmy, I hear all kind of different ages. I do hear that the Greys are well over 1 billion years old, and the Greys were manicured by the light beams once they came to this solar system or just galaxy. As far as reptilian humans, I hear different ages from 500 million to 1.5 billion. I guess. What do you mean it's way old? Well, think about what you just said. Our galaxy was 14 billion years old, but guess what? They're going to make it older because, now they found all these solar systems out there that weren't supposed to be there. So now it's getting older and older every day.
Well, and then plus the other thing is they can tell us whatever. They say that they're a billion-year-old species, 1,000 billion-year-old. We can't,
Yeah, that's true.
It's like trying to card God. If God were to show up and he said, "All right, prove it," is his proof gonna fly?
Now he has a library card from the very first library from the very first galaxy.
The very first Alexandrian library.
That's right. It's dated like 17.175 billion years ago. So he got proof. Now the rest of you people, I don't know what to tell you. Y'all are in trouble. The universe is interesting. There's a lot of aliens all over the place. I mean, we're only talking about aliens in our own galaxy. And remember, our galaxy is eating like 4 other galaxies. So we don't even know what we're eating yet. We haven't had time to digest. Well, Earth may not be from the Milky Way. It may be from the Sagittarius galaxy. It is surrounded by Sagittarius galaxy stars. All them red dwarfs nearby belong to the Sagittarius galaxy. So, no, there's been a big debate about that. It's a 50-50 debate. It was, first they said it was for sure. Then they said it wasn't for sure. Then they kind of went, well, maybe not.
Yeah, and by the way, what arm of the Milky Way is our solar system situated near? Isn't it the Sagittarian arm?
It might be.
I think it is.
The third arm, right?
Also think about this. We're not in it.
Yeah, we're on the edge.
We're not in the spiral arm. We're just outside of it. And like what most NASA type scientists say is the boondocks.
Technically, that's what we are. We're not in. It's like we're on the bottom side of it. Well out of the clusters, which is good for us. It's probably what keeps us alive. And
which is probably why our planet is so interesting, because it is out of the way of other stars. So if there was a galactic, Star Wars going on, what better place than to be, away from the battles than out here in the sticks where you can quickly and or probably cheaply make more weapons.
What's it? Bonnie Ray. Y'all got some weird names tonight. No, we'd explain why we haven't been visited as much, but we don't really know how many times we've been visited. We only know that there's only 3 races that really do abductions, at least so far. We do know at least 2 other races that have been here, the light beam. Well, 3 other races that we know have been here. The light beams, the cleanup crew, and the tall whites. So we know those 6 races have been here for sure. Now, the other 50 races, I have seen no evidence of that. Plus, make it even harder on y'all 50 evidence people is, where's all those extra types of ships? Are y'all all flying the Greys, reptilians, or human ships? Because that's the only ships you really can account for is those 3 types of ships. So
yeah, there's like 60 or 80 different designs in some of the UFO books,
but they're all close. So there'll be like 25 saucers. Now there'll be like 25 saucers, and there'll be like 15 different triangles. They're all basically the same ship. They're just either being seen or older or newer. Because remember, people, we change designs on our airplanes every 30 years or so. We change them on our cars.
It's like every 5 or 6.
Our cars about every 2 years. So not to say they won't be changing designs from time to time, or they may have craft for specific reasons. The ones on the top may be certain types of probes. There's no telling.
Well, look, as stupid as this is going to sound, Joe, this has to be the truth. I use this in retail sales when I was working in the stores. I would tell people when they ask me this question, what's the best whatever? What's the best lawnmower? What's the best screwdriver? What's the best drill? And I tell them, look, there's only a few manufacturers on this planet that make these tools. What color plastic do you like?
That's true.
That's how similar they are inside. It doesn't matter if it's DeWalt, Ryobi, pick a tool, electronic tool, pick a hand tool. They're all made in like 3 or 4 places around the world, period, for everybody.
The only real difference is, Rob,
it's got to be the same for them because they have such similar, designs across all their cars. if you will.
Only thing you might see difference, like Milwaukee's tend to last 10 or 15 years. DeWalt does for the most part. But the rest of them, maybe
But-
Hitachi. The
Yeah,
rest
but
of them, they'll
the
last
point
5
is
or 8
though that
years,
there's
maybe
only
10
so many
years.
places that make it, and
That is true.
same
Well,
with our
actually, a lot
cars,
of
same
times
with
the cheaper
TVs,
ones are coming
cell
from the same
phones.
company.
It's got to hold true for them, because there is, like you just said, there might be, different elaborations on 50 different triangles, and 20 different elaborations on 20 different discs. Somewhere someone's making those.
Yeah, just to give y'all a understand, especially if you're over like 35, 40. In the old days, when you used to buy like stereo equipment, or when you would buy VCRs or DVRs, anything that was in a thing like that, you'd notice they have a little round disc on the bottom. Well, they would either be silver, gold, or platinum, which was the quality of the machine itself. That's how they knew what it was. They looked identical to each other machine. And the funny part is sometimes like Sony would make the brand they would produce them for like 8 or 9 other companies, and tattoo their name on there and put, like, if it's a silver,
That
quality, or
that is a well-known manufacturing process. Ford even did it originally when the fledgling car companies, Dodge Brothers, Chevrolet, were all coming up. It's done in the grocery business every day. You ever go down the grocery aisle and you see Wonder Bread, and then you see whatever your store's name is, bread, right next to it.
yeah.
Look at the packaging next time. Look at how close the packaging colors are. Take a look at where both packages came from. Take the packages off thing and look where it says distributed by. And I guarantee you, if you look at enough of those packages, you will find out which brand of bread produces the store brand of bread for your store. And why do they do that? It's quality and control, and it's to help the economy. There are certain breads that they bake that don't make quality. So they put those in the store brand bag, and the store sells it for 70 cents less.
And they do that too. That's what they do, people. I mean, it's just part of it, the game. I'll let y'all get in 2 questions because we're gonna get out of here in a minute. I don't know. Dolly was in here. I think she said Preston is.
Yeah, Preston's going to be on with Michelle.
Yeah, he's gonna be tacking up on Michelle. I'm gonna go over there and cause trouble. Y'all should all go over there and cause trouble. Yeah, log in. She's on Rumble too. You just log in and say Joe said to come cause trouble.
Joe, yeah, Joe's going to be the first radio station owner to be kicked off his own station.
Yeah. Well, we meet the first time, by the way. Oh,
right?
Stephanie. Stephanie tried to fire me a couple of times when she was manager. Stephanie, rest in peace, baby. But she has a couple of times if she could have, she would have. She's like, no good, blankety, blankety, blank. Actually, in all fairness, she was probably the best female news host I have ever hosted with. She
Stephanie
was always
good.
on. Yeah, she was good. She was fiery. Oh yeah, she was fiery. And we'd fight like but when we did news, we did news. No, we're slowly moving the old show back. It's we got a lot of things to work on, like if we're going to put segments in and stuff like that. But right now, there's no need to because we're in a political year. So an hour and a half of the show every week is dedicated to politics. Yes, and what idiot is doing what things. Yes.
Oh my God, yeah.
We got some good clips for this week. Y'all should be sure to come check it out. We got some good stuff. We've always got some good stuff.
Yeah, it's always
what's that,
good.
Robbie?
You got to come and check it out.
So it doesn't matter who you like, Kamala or Trump. If you've got videos of them doing whatever, you can send them to me at iCarcox.net. And if they're good, we will play them.
Especially them doing something stupid.
Yes, we will play. We don't care. We're centralists.
Trump has been saying that a lot, that she's stupid and she's saying he's stupid. If they're doing
like
something stupid, you get it on YouTube or something, send it to us. Definitely.
Yeah, they literally are like 12 years. He's stupid. She's stupid. He's stupid. It's just,
it's kind of like watching the Three Stooges, except there's only 2 of them.
Yeah. But we got some serious stuff on Israel this week, and we got some serious stuff on Russia this week. So y'all want to be sure to tune in for that. And we got some other news we want to talk about. And then, we might even do a show on this. So I've been looking. How much minute? We got a couple minutes. So I've been looking at Elon's designs for his ships that are going to Mars. Mm-hmm. So Elon, if you haven't noticed, have y'all ever seen Elon's Dragon capsule compared to one of the Apollo capsules? It's clean and smooth inside. There's not shit hanging off.
But also, it looks muscular compared to the Apollo rockets.
It does, and it's all smooth inside. It's clean. There's not a bunch of crap all over the place. There's a board
It's
thing
a
in
new
front.
universe like Star Trek, not a used universe like Star Wars.
Yeah, so no, so it's very interesting. So the starship is designed to carry 100 people. That's not what it's going to end up carrying. They said 100. The other company like NASA said 10. It's probably going to be like 50, but they're going to have individual sleeping quarters, growing areas. Only 17 meters of it's going to actually be living space. It's 110 meters tall, but only 17 meters are going to get used for that. Well, you got to have fuel and stuff like that. Yeah, well, you got to have two different kind of fuels. You got to have the fuels that rocket the damn thing.
Yeah, but food for the people as well. I mean, there's a lot of
yeah,
weight.
Stockpile, but they're going to put in some growing areas. They're definitely going to put in some windows because they want you to be able to see outside and look around. They want to make you feel like it's not just a job. That's their words, not mine. They want it, and they really, when you look at the designs, it is more like the Star Wars universe, clean, crisp. Everything seems to be double, triple, quadruple built. And then, well, you know, Bruce, it's funny you said that. I watched a thing on the space station last night. It's 2030 is when they're supposed to retire. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Who was supposed to retire?
Space station.
Oh, the ISS, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to retire in 2030. I don't know. I would think they would build a new one before they retired. So the U.S. has had a president in space for the last 18 years. There's been somebody aboard that space station the entire time. But they're not the only. Don't forget there was Skylab and Soyuz, right? What was it called?
There was Soyuz, Skylab. What did Soyuz join with? It wasn't Skylab. Hey Google, what space station did Soyuz join with?
According to Wikipedia, Soyuz 11, Russian, Soyuz 11, lit. Union 11 feet, was the only crewed mission to board the world's first space station, Salyut 1.
Salyut 1.
Find out more. Look for the link in your Google Home or Google Assistant app.
Oh no, they left some poor guy up in space. The Russians did for a solid year, man. They just left him up there. The poor bastard. I fell for him. And those are tin cans. I mean, the new space station we got now, well, it's not new now, it's 18 years old, but it's fairly roomy compared to others. But the things that Elon and the Chinese are talking about building are much different. The Chinese want to put a massive hotel in space that even high-end people would want to stay at. So they've been wanting to. They were going to do it 20 years ago, but the Russians and the United States said, hell no, you ain't putting nothing up there. We don't know what you're putting up there. Mister, you got into World War II and like to kill everybody. No, we ain't letting you put nothing up there. But it's a little different now, so they'll probably allow them to put one up. Well, now Elon's got ships that come and go all the time. It's a different place. Dragon can hold up to about 6, so they can launch them up, launch them down, launch them up, launch them down, launch them up, launch them down. And once they get the big ship together, they can send up a bunch of people at one time, especially if they're just ferrying them to the moon. So on what they're planning on doing with the starships is flying them up to the moon. They're going to send a bunch with just cargo in it and land them. They're going to send a bunch with people and cargo. And then what they're going to do is they got these cables that they shoot off of them, and it's going to lay them down on their side so they can be turned into a city.
Yeah.
Yeah, send about 100. I'm going to be a pretty decent sized city. You know, you'd be able to have 1,000, 2,000 people up there running around. Yeah, because you can take all the fuel things out. They can be ejected. They're not going to be needed anymore because it's going to be on the ground. They're going to be ejected for the land and making them much lighter. I mean, you know, on the way down. We'll see. We'll see. Most of us should still be alive for some of this stuff. The good stuff ain't going to be here for another 50 years or so. But Johnny, I know how old you are. You'd be like 120 in 50 years. What are you talking about? Well, look, if you're around, more power to you, my friend. But y'all be sure to go check out Preston Dennon. He's over there with Michelle DeRoche on the Outer Realm, causing all kind of grief. Preston's an alien, too. He's married to Dolly. They're both aliens. Yes. Ooh. And they're different kind of aliens. That's what makes it so crazy. It's a mixed marriage. It's a mixed alien marriage. No, I like both of them. They're nice people. Yeah, they really are. I just seen them. Like I said, I seen them in April. We were all out at and at the shit. Writers of the Future. I'm sorry, we were all at Writers of the Future Awards this year.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so we caught up out there at the gala event. The gala event. Wait, let me do it this way. The gala event. There you go. Any one last question, then we out of here. What is it? What do you mean? You mean that's okay. Do aliens believe in God? That's a big question. Too big for the end of the show.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. I do
got a
know.
quick answer.
Yeah, spit it
Because
out.
we actually talked about this, I think, exactly last show. They may not believe in our type of concept of God anymore, but they must have at one point, because it was by their inspiration that gods were created. So they are at least aware of the religious factor that is a good control method for, let's just say, lesser evolved beings.
Christopher, yeah, I do believe, if from what we've been told, the reptilians do have a religion, and it's one religion for the whole society. No, even though they're like 12 tribes or 14 tribes, that's one society. Yes, They consider themselves one. Yeah, one religion, one everything. Because if you're going to do deep space and colonize like they do, you got to be together.
You have to be focused. Yeah.
America's never going to be nobody's going to be able to get out there except for what the world can do. You want to be terror.
If you're not focused on a single goal or task, your species is probably doomed.
You need to start calling the species humans and the planet Terra.
Yep.
Yes. So we start getting used to the change. Because it's time. Well, no, I don't know how it's going to change. I mean, come on. Right now we got Biden, Putin, and Zing. I mean, that's perfect. That's an impossibility at the moment. But
we have a bunch of teenagers in their 70s, slinging mud at each other on national television every day of the week.
Yes, and some of them have nuclear weapons, so it's really scary.
Yeah, that's even scarier.
No, Jackie, but no, we'll talk about it on one of the near shows. We can talk a little bit about it. Or maybe when we do the special on the great guy, we'll just take it. No, the show on Jesus is going to be an interesting. I can tell y'all now, it's going to be a heated show. It's going to be an interesting show. I can, my Christian friends will probably be upset some. But remember, everybody gets to speak their piece. So don't get mad. Get up there and say what you believe or what you think or what you know. Yes. Yeah, so I mean that's what it's all about. Get up there and speak your thing. Oh, Merry Christmas. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Got 3 of them down there. But we got to go, guys and girls. I want everyone to hang out and go see Michelle DeRoche and be out around. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Any moans, groans, bitches, gripes, or complaints, write to Jay McNichols. He'll take it for you.
Oh, no.
Jay say, whoa, wait a minute.
Ooh, that's Michelle's job.
Yeah, that's Michelle DeRoche's job. She does all of that shit. There's a couple of changes coming up because we finally got some shit caught up on the network. And well, right now my company is on first responder watch because we got a big storm hitting Florida. So it depends where it hits and how far down it hits, what we get involved or not. And then, of course, we got to watch here because I live on the water. So we're not so much worried about wind or rain. We're just worried about raising tides. My house is literally 20 yards,
they're just
20 feet
predicting it to go up and die over Tennessee and Pennsylvania, but it could take a hard left and go right across Louisiana. You don't know. It's nature.
Yeah. So the bitch is inland. Once it's inland, we don't worry about it too much because we know it's going to die fast. A Cat 3 is a major storm. It could be close to a Cat 4. So, Katrina technically was a Cat 3 when it came on shore. It was a Cat 4 just before it came on, but it was a disaster. I mean, come on. Where I'm living right now, let me see if y'all can see it. I don't know if y'all can see that. Let's see it. Yeah. Oh, no, the camera came unplugged. You can't see it. Every time I touch my camera lately, it goes off. But right above me, I'm sitting, you can't see, but I have a 22-foot ceiling. It's a 12-foot ceiling on top of it. So my house is 10 feet off the ground. And then there's 10 foot of wall. That's 20 feet. And then there's 12 foot of ceiling. So I'm 32 feet off the ground. And the reason I am is because where I'm sitting right now, there was 26 foot of water from Katrina. Yeah, I'd be drowning at the moment. Seriously drowning. This house had no walls left on it after the storm. It was, you could just walk right through it. And I actually used to have an extra room, and it used to have it underneath. All of that's gone. They won't let you close into underneath
Floor
it
plan
anymore.
though. Jeez, Joe.
Yeah, so now it's about 1,800 square feet now, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's just comfortable living for me and the boss.
Yep.
Yes. The only thing I don't like about it is my grass is about yay tall right now. I got to get out there and cut it.
Oh, you're lucky if you can let yours grow that tall. I live in a little borough here in Pennsylvania, and if they actually, I guess they pay a guy. I don't know if he volunteers. They probably pay him. I got a notice on my door one day that my grass was more than 10 inches, and if I didn't cut it by a certain date, I would have to pay a fine. So apparently they pay somebody to drive around town and with a yardstick and measure people's yards, and if it's approaching 10 inches, they leave a note on your door.
well, mine's about 24 inches right now, and I'm sure none of my neighbors are happy about it, but they'll get over it. But when we first got this place, we used to have all kind of wildflowers all over. Because we used to have butterflies and dragonflies all over. And then we got the manicure in our yard, and they all just went away because we cleaned up both acres. So I decided last year to let the other side grow up just to see, and let this is just growing because we haven't cut it. But you see way more butterflies now. When you'll come out some days, the whole yard will be colored in all them different colored dragonflies out there flying around. They look like little mini aliens.
You can keep your lawn manicured if you put out the kinds of plants they like butterfly bushes and those kinds of things.
Oh, we do that too, but they a lot of the stuff that grows wild around here they really like. So, and it's only for a month or two, and we cut it down.
Yeah.
And the other fields planted with all kind of wildflowers. They just come and go all year round. Jimmy, we gotta go see Preston Dennett, Michelle DeRoche, The Outer Realm. Amelia's probably there. I didn't even ask, but she probably is. Amelia Bassano. That's not her name. It's close enough. It's Pisano, not Bassano, but Pisano. Like the meat, the stuff. Anyway, we're out of here. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to United Public Radio and UFO Undercover. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Again, any moans, groans, bitches, gripes, or complaints, please write to Michelle DeRoche, courtesy of The Outer Realm. On that note, we're out here. Any topics that you'd like to talk about or information you'd like to send us, you can send to icar@cox.net. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Dun, 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 dun.